Hello and welcome to the Victor Salinas Business Talks number 9. I'm Victor Salinas. I'm a business consultant and I'm an entrepreneur, and I dedicate my life to helping this resistant, admirable, and resilient species called the business owner. And what I do is basically I implement a very workable system for organizing your business, engaging your people, selling more, so you're able to have more time, not only for traveling and vacation, but you can actually organize your business and have more time to grow and expand. And every week I'm here with the heavy hitters, with the heavyweights of the business world to talk about what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do with your business. So with me here, I have the one and only, a good friend of mine who I admire the most, and a person who I saw evolve in these few years, working his ass off to build brands and help businesses to grow. And this is my friend, Jeremy Slate. How's it going, my friend? Good to see you.
Hey, brother. I'm doing awesome. You and I were chatting in the beginning that, like, I feel like your theme song should be that line from that Shakira song, Hips Don't Lie. It should be like, Salinas, Salinas. Just to show the amount of excitement here, man. But, like, it's pretty cool because I know you and I met, like, back in early 2016, and, like, I was kind of, like, just trying to, like, figure my stuff out. So it's kind of cool just to have been the ride along with both of us figuring this all out, man.
So true. So true. And to speak a little bit about you, that's why I like it. Like in 2016, this guy was actually asking me, so which color should this banner on my website be? And then now he's interviewed Grant Cardone, Gary Vee. I mean, you've interviewed like
your fellow Brazilian, Elio Castroneves.
Elio Castroneves, who's like a legend. It was
Sao Paulo.
Exactly. So what I like and I really admire about Jeremy here is that he is like, he's not the type of person who's thinking and overthinking things. He produces, he works his ass off, and he works a lot to really build stuff. And he has created a company which I've seen from scratch. And now he is, as I said, helping through PR and positioning many brands and clients around the world. So tell us a little bit about you, Jeremy.
Yeah. So funny enough, like, I never like decided I wanted to be in the business. Like, I come from a very blue collar family. Both my parents, didn't go to college, and, they worked like very manual labor jobs to like make things go right. So like kind of going to college was the big like be all end all, man. So I got my degree in ancient history. My master's is in early Roman Empire propaganda. I also studied literature at New College, Oxford. These are not very like applicable skills to like getting a job or doing a lot of things, just like kind of feeling smart. And it's funny too, because like when I was younger, man, like I remember, being in the gym when I was like 17, 18, I had this friend, he's like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I had this like funny definition of the word entrepreneur. I thought it meant like being lazy and like, not really like working hard to make money. Cause I had this idea, like you have to work hard in order to make money, when it's just, I learned down the road, it's not really the case. And it's funny, the definitions of things we get. So, being a business person or an entrepreneur wasn't really in the cards for me. So I, was teaching high school in 2012, and my mom ended up actually having a really bad stroke. And that was a really like life-changing moment for me. I kind of dove into a lot of personal development, read a lot of different books and stuff then, started working on myself a lot more spiritually. And that was kind of the thing that propelled me to look for something more. Like, what more am I going to do? What am I going to do different? So I quit my job on a whim, and I actually jumped full-time into network marketing, which I didn't know what that was. So like, I saw this presentation. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make $1 billion like next week. This is going to be great. So needless to say, I didn't make $1 billion next week, but it got me started, and it was enough to kind of get me doing something different. And from there, I ended up actually selling life insurance, which I was pretty darn good at. But I hated the fact of, feeling like I was a mob boss, sitting down with somebody, so you need to buy this, or you're going, because you're going to die, right? And you don't want anything to happen to your family, right? So I didn't like what I had to do in order to make that go right. Now, your viewpoint on it may be totally different. You may look at life insurance differently, but for me, that was my viewpoint. And I went from there to then private labeling and selling products on Amazon. And I made a mistake when I launched my first product, and I left my promo code to get my product for $1 on my listing, and I lost all 200 of my products in under 20 minutes. So I kind of like was out a bunch of money, was out a bunch of stock, and I'm like, well, that didn't work. On to the next thing. So I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos, and I taught myself how to build websites. I actually taught myself how to write website code. And I ended up working at a friend's web design firm, building websites. And when you and I actually met in the beginning of 2016, I was about 2 months into starting a podcast that I had started in late November, and it had taken off, man. Like, it had gotten 10,000 listens in its first 30 days. I didn't really do it with the intention of like creating something big, and it took off. And from there, it led to us creating a business called Get Featured Media, which went pretty well for the first 9 months. We had a business disagreement, and that led us to creating Command Your Brand. But the cool thing about that is I never would have created in that first business what we have now. So it kind of shows you like even that adversity can help you to create something better.
That's really pretty intense. And I love how you had the mindset to actually make that happen, because like I talk about it a lot because I really truly admire it. Like you're a top podcaster, you're an entrepreneur, you're like a PR expert. I just love saying the names. Like you've interviewed like Seth Godin, Russell Brunson, a lot of people that I've forgotten right now, but you've interviewed like some top dogs in the game. And I remember how you did it, and you were like really scavenging and working tough.
Scrappy, man.
Yeah. And I love it. So what's the picture?
But you know what's funny about that, man?
Go ahead.
Well, you know what's funny about that though is like a lot of people can do that. They just don't have the idea out of the gate that they can. So they take these little tiny actions. And they're like, oh my gosh, it didn't work. And I'm like, I'd rather fail big. So I've always kind of shot big with the people that I went after. And funny enough, like in baseball, right? Like to be a Hall of Famer, you only have to hit 3 out of every 10 baseballs. And that's about, what I've done in order to get incredible guests. But like, you got to shoot big to think big to go big, man.
So true. I fully agree with you. So tell us a little bit about what's the picture with your businesses right now? Where are they at? What did you build?
So basically what we have now is we have a PR firm, and I look at my podcast as something that promotes what we do there. So we have a team kind of all over the world, really. We have 4 people on our team in the Philippines. We have 7 people all across the U.S. on our team. So,
Wow.
we kind of are all over the place. I'm based in New Jersey, but my main salesperson is in Miami. So we kind of make a lot of this stuff work by not being in the same place. So it's funny enough, like I know the world's been changing a lot, and we've been forced to do a lot of stuff online. And for us, honestly, like that's a lot of what we've done. We've figured out how to use a business management system called the Hubbard Management System in our business, but we figured out how to do a lot of it online, which is pretty cool as well. So, we have everybody running their stats online. We have, people running their conditions online, stuff like that. So,
wow.
We've been able to take the whole online world and build our business off of that, including our lead generation, including our sales, including a lot of what we're doing. So, we've really taken a lot of what we've done, and we have a team all over the place, and allows everybody to travel, allows them to do what they're doing, and kind of, I guess, create their own future that way.
That's incredible. And I love that. So, just how was it in the beginning? Was it easy? Was it kind of difficult?
Well, so here's the thing too, is I think like a lot of times people think they know their business idea out of the gate, and I didn't. So like, people were on my podcast and like, wow, I want that. So one of my good friends asked me to do a podcast for him. So we did. And the issue that I found was we called it a podcast in a box. I had this brilliant idea. It was a great idea. And I built his website, did his social media, edited his podcast, booked his guests, did his show format, edited the episodes, did everything around it. And what we found is the amount of money we had to charge in order to like do all this and do a great job at it, I was actually losing money every month working for him. But we created a great product. And what we found was he really loved the show, but actually the thing he liked the most was going on other shows. Because my wife has been in PR for, over 10 years now. So when we were launching his podcast, she's like, well, why isn't he going on other podcasts? Why aren't we getting him in media? So we got him in Huffington Post, we got him in Inc., we got him in a couple of different places. And then we got him on a whole bunch of podcasts. And his podcast did well, and we got him talking to a lot of big people in the health space. But what we found out is he liked the 20%, and that was just going on shows. So what we actually did then is we hooked up with another business partner, closed up that business, started a business called Get Featured Media, and it took off, man. We hit, our first six figures in 6 months, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Wow.
And but by month 9, things were just not really going so well. I didn't see eye to eye with my business partner, and in that time, we had to kind of figure out, all right, so you want to go this way, I want to go this way, but we had agreements that were signed. So for 3 months, I couldn't work. So I was picking up other jobs, doing other stuff, and any checks I was getting, I was sending right to the staff because I wanted to make sure we kept them on board, because I had the idea of, when we were going to go, I was going to make sure whatever agreement we signed meant that the staff got to stay with me because they were really good and I had trained them. So when we split off and founded Command Your Brand in 2017, we still had all the people that had been working for us from day one from that previous company. And that allowed us to, I guess, kind of cut the learning curve in a lot of ways. So in 2017, we did 6 figures. 2018, we were up 25% on that. And in 2019, we doubled revenue. And right now in 2020, we're on pace to 4x that. So it's been, really cool. But the thing I want people to understand is you're not always going to know what it is out of the gate if you're starting your own business, and your idea may change. Number 2, sometimes adversity can be a gift, because I wouldn't have created in that other business what I've created now, because it's my wife and I and our team now, where it was my wife and I and somebody else in our team now, and we have different ideas. So it allowed me to create what I really wanted to create. That's
fantastic. I mean, and I know you've been through some tough times, and you really summarized it here. And I love,
dude, it is like so tough when you're like, I got a cell phone bill, I got a rent, I got a cable bill, and a check comes in, and you're like, I'm just going to pay my employees and hope for the best for myself. Like, that was tough, man. I got to tell you.
I can imagine that. And that's insanely difficult, because you got to survive. And I know you got a daughter too. And
she was born in 2018. So she got to have things a little bit easier by the time she was born. And I'm actually really grateful that we didn't have any children at that time, because that would have also affected that decision too. Because here's the thing, man, you got to look at all the different areas you have in your life and make sure that the decision you're making is the optimum solution for all of them,
Absolutely. Well, I know you had a pig at that time.
Still do.
What's her name?
Still do. His name is Sir Remington.
Sir Remington, that's right.
And it's funny, because I was on a podcast in the UK a couple weeks ago, and he goes like, how did you get your pig knighted? I'm like, well, we just decided he was a knight.
It's just like, that's awesome. So we have a whole world happening here in the background, so bear with me.
No worries.
So I love it, and I love how you persisted through it, and how tough it was for you, but you managed to keep your focus on the good things and on what's really, really positive. So right now, what's the plan? What's next for this year, given this whole funny adventure we're living?
Well, it's funny, because I know you and I were talking about it a little bit recently, is, we've still been growing, which has been great. We're not growing at, the cataclysmic isn't the right word. I want to say tremendous rate we were earlier in the year, but we're still growing. So it's kind of affected predictions on where it's going to be at the end of the year as well. But our goal was 7 figures for this year. So we're still trying to hit that. We're still trying to make that happen. The team's been working pretty darn hard. We're hiring again. So, we're looking to add a 3rd publicist as well, or 4th publicist as well right now. So, that's where we're going. And also in my own content, I'm doing a lot more video content as well. So like, I applaud you for being on the video game right out of the gate. But for me, like we're trying to do a lot more of it. So, I invested in some better cameras, some better lighting and stuff like that. And we're trying to do a lot more of that because that's another thing that's going to help with brand growth in 2020.
Yeah, that's really smart. I mean, I'll tell you briefly why I joined the video game, because a month and a half ago I was sitting on my living room and I was texting my clients like, see you tomorrow. It was Sunday. Well, it was actually Monday, was a holiday. I was like, see you tomorrow, right? See you on Wednesday. And all of my clients said, no, cancel it. Coronavirus, cancel it. I was like, okay, fine. No big deal. And then on Tuesday, those clients started to say, let's cancel our contract. Let's cancel
that's bad.
our project. And I'm like, okay, this is no joke. I was like, this is an emergency. This is nuts. So I found myself in an emergency and a really crazy situation. So what I started to do immediately is what anybody has to do when an emergency breaks out. Like if a fire breaks out, you're not going to be like, well, let me just finish this interview with Jeremy here before I put the fire out, right? So I started to work my butt off. Like I started to promote like crazy, work like crazy, economize my time, economize my energy, money, everything I could. And part of this promoting is promoting, being productive and changing basically the basis of operation that I have been operating on in the past. So I changed it. I was like, I was used to going to companies, sitting down at meeting rooms and having personal meetings. So now what I'm doing is I'm having building a digital life, and I didn't put too much thought into it. I do need a better camera. I do need a better microphone. I do need a better everything. But
you can't use that as a reason not to start, because so many people will be like, well, everything has to be perfect. Eventually I will do something. Those people don't do anything. And to me, action trumps the idea of, thinking everything has to be perfect, because it's so funny because like one of the things I did early on in my journey is I wrote tons and tons and tons of articles for different websites. And my wife would always go through and be like, why didn't you let me read this first? This grammar is horrible. I'm like, yeah, but it's out there. I can fix the grammar later. And I think that's a lot of times what you have to think is like, money loves speed, man.
100%. And I'm happy with it because of all of this. I own a marketing agency, and we launched many actions. We've gotten more clients. I've been in a month and a half. It took me 5 years for a freaking pandemic to hit so I could do in a month and a half what I should have done 5 years ago, just because I wanted perfect. I need the right lighting, the right moment. So now it's funny the result that I'm getting from being in action. But anyways, that's a whole different podcast. So, all right. It's amazing to see that you went from like literally nothing or a lot of problems and not being able to have money to survive so you could pay your staff. So now running towards the 7 digits, as you say, which is fantastic. Now, on this journey, on making this happen, what were your mistakes? Like mistakes that you were really aware of it. And you're like, oh, I messed up here, here, and here.
Well, you were talking about your condition of emergency, right? And like you were talking about like how you're applying that. And honestly, like, I've been somebody that's known the Hubbard management system for a while. I've been somebody that's known a lot of those tools for a while. And my biggest mistake was in the beginning, I didn't apply them. Like I actually didn't use a lot of those tools in my business. I'm like, oh, those don't apply to my business. And the biggest thing that has started our growth is in 2018. Honestly, we committed to really putting in what's called the model of admin know-how in our business, and getting each one of those things into our business. Using statistics, using a communication center, running our business viably, all that stuff. Like that has been the single biggest thing that's helped us grow, but it was my single biggest failure in not using it early on in my business. So I would say that was definitely my biggest mistake.
Wow.
Another thing as well is kind of getting distracted by all these shiny objects and saying, oh, well, this looks good. Oh, this looks interesting. Oh, this looks good. And sometimes, like, even if it's not the perfect opportunity, if you have to commit to an opportunity to make it go right, and you'll see better opportunities in the long run, or that opportunity itself may get better, but you got to commit to something. And early on, I was kind of like going towards whatever looked shinier, looked faster, it looked like it was going to make me more money quickly. You have to commit to something and be willing to make it go right.
I fully agree with you. And it's funny that you say a lot of people who's watching this don't really know what the Hubbard management system is. I am a Hubbard management consultant, a fully certified consultant. And what this system does is actually standardizes your business. So you have a fully workable org board, organizing board, so you can organize your activities and your people. Then you create actual operational manuals, like manuals where people are going to learn how to do something. We call them hats. And then you create statistics, KPIs, like key performance indicators, so you can measure the productivity of your team. And you have a whole communication system, a whole system for action plans, like actually pre-made action steps that you can take for any type of situation that you hit as a business owner. And that allows
it takes like any business and basically makes it a franchise. It's pretty incredible how you can, like, you make positions that you can continually replace, continually add people, continually figure out exactly what you need to grow. So, like, you know, if people haven't heard of the Hubbard management system before, I would definitely recommend they get in touch with you about it, because as I said, like, that was our single biggest thing behind doubling our business in from 2018 to 2019. So, you know, that's definitely something that, you know, I would recommend they get on.
That's awesome. That's amazing to know. And I mean, I'm sorry you had that mistake before implementing it. But that's amazing. So it's funny because as a consultant, I see, you know I have clients who are a lawyer or an architect or a 10 people firm or a 10,000 people business. I have all different types of clients, and I have some of them are some of the most important businesses or companies in Latin America, and we're implementing the system. And it's funny to see how they suffer without being able to delegate properly, without being able to organize, commit their people and stuff like that.
It's a game changer, man.
That I'm so glad you say that. And on the other hand, when you're not really committed to what you're doing, I know people who have been working with their businesses for 30 years and they're still not committed to what they're doing. And it's insane how you can see like the ups and downs they go through as business owners. So I love it, Jeremy, how you so fast. I mean, it's been 4 years and you're like going and going and going. So we know your mistakes. Now, what did you do? What were your successful actions to make this happen? How would you name them?
It's the opposite of my mistakes. So, like I said, number one was implementing the Hubbard management system. But number two was actually identifying people that were considerably ahead of me in my field and that I wanted to learn from. So, like, so for example, one of my good friends is like, oh, you got to connect with this guy, David Briere. So I did everything I could to get in front of David Briere, who's like one of the top guys in the world in branding.
Just give me an idea. I'm going to interview David.
You should interview David. David's a genius.
Legend.
So I connected with David, and David was a huge help to me and helped to really, catapult my growth in what I was doing. I connected with one of the top public speakers in the world, a guy named Joe Yazbak, and Joe has been a massive help to me. So one of my most successful actions was identifying people that I, knew were massively ahead of me in what I was doing, and I could kind of cut the learning curve by doing that. But also at the same time, like in doing this, you and I are creating content. And that was one of my biggest things was honestly the podcast helped to cut my growth as well, because I've done 712 interviews up to this point. So I've been able to be in front of more and more and more and more people to enhance my positioning, learn from more people, create more credibility, create more connections. So really it's been, just continually talking to people that are consistently far ahead of me in the growth curve to cut my growth curve.
That's phenomenal. That's well done. And truly, you mentioned some real heavy hitters, some real amazing people. Definitely great idea. I'm going to interview David Brielle, who's a genius.
You should connect with Joe too. I don't know. Do you know Joe Yazbak? Him and I have been doing a lot of webinars recently. You should connect with Joe too.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love to interview him. I mean, you have this ability to reach amazing people and connect with them, like for real. It's awesome to see. So, all right, that sounds amazing. Now, what would you say? What is the reason for your businesses or business to exist? What's the purpose of your business?
We help people to change the world and better mankind through the power of podcasting. So I really want to help people that have really big visions to get out there and help a whole lot of people, because then it's kind of like a I don't know, like a pyramid effect, right? Like you start in the bottom with me, but I help people that are bigger and bigger and bigger, and they help more people. So you have this like massive impact, and you help a lot of people by helping people that have huge reach. So really that's what we do, man. We help people to, better mankind through the power of podcasting. And that's really what I'm trying to do here.
That's brilliant. And you know what? I can see you're doing it. And every day, like I can see it in your actions. You're actually doing that. And I truly admire you for that. That's awesome. Okay, great. So look, on this show, we're going to have people who is starting a business. Some of them have been on business for 1, 2, 3 years. Some of them has had a business for 10, 20, 30 years and are veterans, So what would you say to a business owner, be it a guy who's just starting, someone who's new, or a veteran? What would you say? What tips and what would you tell them?
I would say, first off, don't enter it like you know everything, because that was one of my mistakes early on. Is I kind of entered it like I knew everything, and I made a lot of dumb mistakes because I thought I did, and it turned out my ideas weren't correct. So, enter it with a willingness to learn. I would say number 2, locate the people that like I said, that are far ahead of you and you can learn from. And number 3, have a business management system in your business, because you need to be able to standardize a lot of what you're doing. Like the reason I've been able to hire a lot of people is because I've had every single position in my company not only written up, but also videoed as well. So they can, go on and see like, well, what would that post do on the internet and stuff like that. So like, that's another thing you have to think about as well, is everything you're doing has to be easily given to somebody else, because if you're not able to do that, number 1, it comes back to you, and then you have to figure out what the heck the problem is. And number 2 is you're never going to grow like that, because you become the logjam.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it's funny though, because as a consultant, I see so many different personalities. I learn more than I actually teach, being a business consultant. And it's funny because I've seen companies that went from 10 people to 60 in a year. I've also seen companies that went from 2,000 people to 400, and it's like,
that's bad.
I know. I've seen it. I've seen it all. And the lack of a business management system, it's absolutely key for that, and absolutely key for that. And what you just said, I think it's even more important. If you think you know everything, I think you're dead as a business owner, as a human being. And so,
dude, you make some stupid mistakes when you do, because you're like so certain you're right, and you're like, oh, somebody will tell you something, they have more experience than you, they've obviously like done better than you. You're like, you don't know, the internet's different now. And you find that a lot of the same principles apply. And if you just go into it thinking you know everything, man, you make dumb mistakes.
So true. Damn, Jeremy. So happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, man.
So cool. So, Command Your Brand. You have your PR firm. Mm-hmm. What is it called?
Command Your Brand is the podcast is Create Your Own Life.
Create Your Own Life is your podcast. I think you have. Do you have anything else? Any other?
We dropped everything else because we're keeping the main thing, and we're just really focused on helping people in the PR space.
Right. That's awesome. So please go listen to Jeremy Ryan Slate on his podcast. Go listen. Go find Command Your Brand. Where else can I find you? Where can people?
Yeah.
Find you?
So commandyourbrand.com, we actually finally invested in that in January because somebody had been sitting on the domain for like 2 years, and we finally had saved up enough money in the building fund to be able to go out and purchase that. So that was nice. And jeremyryanslate.com for the personal brand side of things. And I'm Jeremy Ryan Slate on every social media platform.
Nice. And the coolest and most amazing, no joke, podcast on earth, create your own life. And I love the name because it's so true. And I remember I was episode number 50 something.
Yeah, you were, man.
That's awesome, man. So thank you so much, Jeremy. I don't know if you want to say anything else to end.
No, just I appreciate you having me. I just really think like if somebody is stuck in their business, they should consider talking to you about the Hubbard Management System because as I said, that was the biggest leap forward for me. And I want to see other people make that leap too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And if you want to really boom your brand and position it like never before, this is the man to go to. So thank you, Jeremy. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
It was a true pleasure. Thanks, everybody. So every week we're here with people like this guy, people who are changing the world and making things better, helping business owners and helping brands to grow. That's what we do here. So we learn what we should do and what we shouldn't do as business owners and entrepreneurs and when in our quest to actually make things happen. So thank you very much. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.